estimation is using rounding to get a close answer so that you have an idea of what your answer should be when you get there. A lot of times we use estimation when we go to the grocery store with our parents and we look at something that's $1.98 and we might say, oh, that's about $2. A lot of times you'll see the word about when people want you to estimate or round or get a close answer to something. You may have to round to different amounts. So you might have to round to the nearest 10 sometimes. And you need to know what the midpoint is because that helps you. The midpoint between 0 and 10 is 5. You may have to round to the nearest 100, and the midpoint for that is 50. And you may have to round to the nearest 1,000, and the midpoint is 500. So as you can see, as you go on, you add more zeros to the end point, then you need to add a 0 to your midpoint. So we're going to get down to our estimation. So our job here is to estimate both numbers so that we can add them together in order to get a close answer of what it should be. Now, estimating is something you ultimately do in your head as mental math so that you don't need paper, but you can just do it quickly to figure out around what it should be. So, for instance, if I want to round this to the nearest 100%, now, we're not going to always write this, but if I wanted to show my work, I'm going to move this over a little. If I wanted to show my work for this, I'm going to say, oh, how many hundreds does 3,185 have? Well, we look at the hundreds place, we know that it has 1, but it has a total of 31 because the thousands are made up of hundreds, 10 hundreds in each thousand. So that gives me 3,100. So I'm going to start my number line off with 3,100. And then I'm going to count 100 more, which is 3,200 or 3,200. And I know the midpoint using my scale over here. I know the midpoint for counting off by hundreds is 50. So I know I'm going to start off with 3,100 and I'm going to have 50 as my midpoint between 100 and 200. So when I put the number that I'm trying to round, 3,185, on this number line, I'm going to use my midpoint to compare. I know that 3,185 is more than 3,150. So it goes about right here and it rounds to 3,200. So I'm going to use about 3,200 and then I'm going to do this number line process in my head when I'm doing it. So 4,896, I know when I go to round that to the nearest 100, it is closer to 4,900 because that's 100 more and 96 is more than 50. So 4,900 is what I round it to, and I'm going to add this estimated answer. Estimated number, sorry, 2 plus 9 is 11. I'm going to regroup, and that gives me 8. So 8,000, about 8,100 is the answer. I'm going to do the same thing for my subtraction, but this time I am going to just round to thousands. So I have 8,431. I know that I have 8,000s, so I could round to 8,000 or 9,000, but because I have less than 500 here, I know that it rounds to 8,000 alone. I'm going to erase my scale for a little bit. So then I have 5,742. I know that rounds to 6,000. And then I know I'm going to subtract 8,000 minus 6,000 is 2,000. And then the same thing with my multiplication. I'm just going to round this top number. So I know if I have 37 and I want to round that to the nearest 10, I'm going to round, I have 3 tens and it could round to 30 or 40. But I know that 37 is more than the midpoint, which is 35. So I'm going to round it. It's going to be closer to 40 on that number line. So I'm going to multiply 40 times 4. And as you can see, this does make it easier for you to get an estimated answer. So 40 times 4, I know that 4 times 4 is 16. So 4 tens times 4 would be 16 tens. So I have 37 times 4 is about 160. And then last but not least, I have 48. And I know that I'm going to round that to the nearest 10. So that gives me 50 divided by 5. It's 50 because I have 4 tens. It could round to 40 or 50, but 48 is more than 45, which puts it closer to 50 on a number line. So 50 divided by 5 is 10. So 48 divided by 5 is about 10. And that is estimation.